shared implementation, shared action plans. This is what they are coming up with, which is very, very commendable. These are two Pan-African countries working together for the benefit of our citizens.
Currently, Rwanda has 457 microfinance institutions and Umurenge circles, serving over 6.3 million members with savings exceeding 400 billion Rwandan francs. These institutions have contributed significantly to reducing the number of financially excluded adults from 7% in 2020 to just 4% in 2024. According to State Minister in the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning, Kavira Godfrey, the microfinance sector has played a crucial role in boosting financial inclusion, raising the proportion of adults using financial services from 92% to 96%.
The financial exclusion rate has dropped from 7% to just 4% in 2024. These are not just statistics, they reflect real transformation in the lives of our people and greater economic participation for all Rwandans. A key driver of this progress has been the modernization of our microfinance sector, particularly Umurenge circles, or saving and credit corporations as they are popularly known, which serve as essential financial access points in rural areas. This has also been backed up by other innovative financial products, also leveraging technology and integrating technology in the microfinance sector.
This study visit builds on the Microfinance Technology Summit 2025 held in Zimbabwe earlier this year, which brought together Association of Microfinance Institutions in Rwanda and their Zimbabwean counterparts in August.
To agriculture sector, recent rains across the country have helped farmers prepare their fields for the upcoming 2026A planting season. However, the Rwanda Agriculture and Animal Resources Development Board cautions that planting too early could expose crops to damage from the return of dry conditions. We have a detailed report. Recent rains in different parts of the country have helped farmers prepare for the upcoming 2026A planting season, with many already busy tilling and preparing their land. For some, the rainfall came as a surprise. While it has been beneficial for certain crops, most farmers are avoiding planting sensitive crops since August is traditionally considered part of the dry season. When it rains at this time in August, it gives us farmers an opportunity to plan ahead for the agriculture season. We use these rains to prepare the soil, and in some cases, we even start planting important crops such as cassava. If everything goes well and we do not experience drought in September, and if the rains continue during that month, then we can begin planting short-term crops such as beans, peas, maize, and others for harvest. The Rwanda Agriculture and Animal Resources Development Board is urging farmers to be cautious about planting at this time to avoid potential losses from prolonged dry conditions, according to Dr. Florence Uwamahoro, the Deputy Director General in charge of Agricultural Development. You have noticed that it has been raining occasionally, but we would not immediately advise farmers to start planting crops yet, because we are still in the dry season. According to the indicators from the Meteorological Agency, this period is still considered part of the dry season. This means that the rains we are experiencing now may be misleading, and if farmers plant too early, the crops may not survive. For this reason, we are waiting for official information from the Meteorological Agency regarding the season that runs from September to December. Their guidance will help us plan appropriately for farming activities, especially in areas without irrigation or sufficient humidity, where the environment is not yet suitable for crop growth. The Meteorological Agency has informed us that they will release the seasonal directives on the 29th of this month. This means that by September, we will have the appropriate information to guide planting decisions, including which crops to grow and other necessary practices. In the meantime, farmers are focusing on soil preparation. The current rains are useful because they soften the soil, making it easier for cultivation. So while the farming season is already approaching, we are waiting for the Meteorological Agency's guidance before actual planting begins. The Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Resources has already prepared for the 2026A planting season. The Rwanda Agriculture and Animal Resources Development Board says that so far, about 1.5 million citizens have registered under the Smart Nkunganire program out of the 2.3 million that the institution had planned for. We are still encouraging farmers to register because it is the only way that allows agro-dealers to know the quantity of agricultural inputs required based on the number of farmers who have registered. We are therefore urging farmers to complete their registration as quickly as possible, no later than the 20th of this month of August. This will enable us to identify all farmers registered under the Smart Nkunganire program, and it will also help agro-dealers plan accordingly and supply inputs on a wholesale basis to the registered farmers. 8 crops, including maize and beans, are planned to be cultivated during the 2026A season on a total of 800,000 hectares, up from 700,000 hectares cultivated during the 2025A season. In this planting season, the government will also use over 60,000 tons of fertilizers, mainly NPK, urea, DAP, and others. Still on Rwanda's agriculture sector, the Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Resources says that in the new reforms it plans to strengthen the knowledge of agriculture extension workers so that they can better reach farmers in villages and increase agricultural productivity. Agriculture extension workers in the Mageragere sector of Nyarugenge district say that they help fellow farmers improve agricultural output, but they are requesting training and incentives to further enhance their performance. Dr. Telesfor Ndabamenye, the Minister of State for Agriculture and Animal Resources, assures that the request of these agriculture extension workers will be addressed. In Rwanda, there are 13,550 agriculture extension workers known as farmer promoters, as well as 1,779 others known as field school trainers. All of them operate in various villages across the country and play a role in delivering knowledge to farmers through the Twigire Muhinzi approach. Moving ahead to the education sector, the Rwanda Basic Education Board has emphasized that effective collaboration between parents, children and teachers is a key pillar in monitoring students' learning and academic performance in schools. Let's take a closer look at the details. Only 3 weeks remain before the 2025-2026 academic year begins on the 8th of September. Starting this Monday, students in the remedial learning program began their exams, which will last 3 days. The results will determine whether they advance to the next grade or repeat their current one.
It is expected that any student who successfully passes the exams of the remedial learning program will be allowed to progress to the next class, as this demonstrates their capacity to move forward.
Tomorrow on Tuesday, the Ministry of Education will release the results of the national examination for primary school leavers and the ordinary level of secondary education. Some headmasters have reported that in general, preparations for the start of the academic year are going well. However, they expressed concern about the low turnout of parents registering children who are starting primary school and nursery school.
Most of the time, parents come to enroll their children on the very first day of school, and this creates challenges. It gives the impression that schools did not plan ahead for enrollment, yet in reality, we always plan in advance and inform parents beforehand. This situation disrupts the teaching process on the first day of school, as teachers are unable to start lessons smoothly. It also prevents us from properly following up with teachers and students to ensure that everything is going as it should, because so much time is spent receiving late enrollments.
The Director General of the Rwanda Basic Education Board, Dr. Nelson Barushimana, stressed that early registration of children is essential for the Ministry of Education's planning. He also highlighted what enables a child to perform better in school.
Before students return to school, their performance cards should be reviewed, including both with academic marks and their behavior. Each student should also make a promise or set a goal with their parents, stating the results they aim to achieve in the first, second, and third trimesters. When parents regularly ask their children about the marks they received, it motivates the students to work harder, since they know they will have to report back and demonstrate their progress. Education is built on 3 key pillars: the student, the parent, and the school. These 3 must work together in order to support the child's development and ultimately to contribute to the development of the country.
The 2025-2026 academic year is expected to come with changes at all levels. In lower primary, all students will attend in 2 shifts, while in upper secondary, senior 4 students in general education will begin with new subject combinations that have been introduced in line with the type of education Rwanda aspires to in the current context. For students in technical and vocational education and training, this academic year will start with a revised curriculum. However, the subject combinations will remain the same, with some courses improved for better delivery. Now to the technology sector, residents in both urban and rural areas confirm that smartphones have helped them speed up services and provide necessary information, assisting the country in coping with the changes and accelerating development. Some community health workers across the country report that since the outbreak of the COVID-19 in Rwanda, they have been at the forefront of providing information using their smartphones. They note that for the tasks such as treating malaria and sharing other health-related information, smartphones are very helpful. Besides community health workers, local government officials, including village leaders, also confirm that modern phones have improved communication and facilitated faster information sharing. Data from the 5th National Population and Housing Census conducted by the National Institute of Statistics of Rwanda showed that 69% of Rwandans depend on agriculture. People in this sector confirm that they are no longer left behind in technology, and they are now using smartphones to order agriculture inputs and access weather information. In a study conducted by the National Institute of Statistics of Rwanda on the state of employment in the country, the use of phones and digital literacy were examined. The data showed that 85% of households in Rwanda have at least one person who owns a phone, regardless of the type. The proportion of people owning smartphones nationwide is 36%. Smartphone ownership is higher in urban areas, reaching 77.1% compared to 45.6% in rural areas. To other matters, the National Union of Disability Organizations of Rwanda urged young students with disabilities to work harder in their studies and set goals to advance themselves. Dr. Beth Nasifor Mukarwego, chairperson of the organization, made these remarks in Calgary during the launch of a forum for students with disabilities who have completed secondary school. This youth forum brought together participants from various districts of the southern province and was organized by this organization. Similar forums are held in each province. The event was mainly attended by students with disabilities who have completed secondary school, including those in their 5th year of secondary school and university students. The youth forum was organized in collaboration with Caritas Rwanda, and Bishop Bartazar Ntivuguruzwa of the Calgary Diocese highlighted the opportunities provided by the government, including inclusive education policies. These policies were also explained by Dr. Mukarwego, who again encouraged the students with disabilities to focus on their studies. A total of 198 students with disabilities from across the country were invited to this 5-day forum for students with disabilities.
Every journey has a beginning. From nature comes refreshing fruity goodness that keeps you going every day. With every pack complementing life's best moments. Not one, not two, but 5 different fruity flavors. And this journey keeps giving. Introducing Inyanji's new fruity juice flavors, guava and cocktail. Now available at your nearest shop. always ask for Inyange.
Nyiri muto arababwiraga data bati ntabwo wagira umukamo mwinshi utunze inka imwe, ariko nigeze acika intege. Mama akinjira mu bucuruzi hari abamubwiraga bati ntabwo watera imbere udakorera mu iduka rigezweho, ariko ntibyamusubije inyuma, yakoranaga umwete. Njya muri kaminuza hari abanshidikanyagaho bavuga ko nashobora kaminuza naturuka mu muryango wifashije, ariko byarangiye nanditse amateka mashya. Igihe cyo gutera ishema umuryango wanjye kigeze, bamwe bakomeje kumbwira bati ntabwo watera umuryango wawe ibyishimo n'ishema, ariko narabishoboye. Hari abakekaga ko nasigira umurage ukomeye abankomokaho, ariko ubu mfite uruganda rutunganya amata. Banki ya Kigali yabaye umufatanyabikorwa wanjye mu rugendo rwose, inzozi zanjye ziba impamo. Bigereho.
You're still watching RTV News. Now to matters making headlines globally. The Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention announced that it welcomes the approval of malaria treatment for newborns and young children. Africa CDC described this as a historic milestone and said the medicine will help reduce deaths caused by malaria. Until now, no malaria treatment was specifically designed for newborns and young children. Treating these children previously relied on medicines intended for adults. Africa CDC noted that the officially approved drug will eliminate the concerns doctors had about using adult medications for children with malaria, as proper dosing for young patients could not be reliably ensured. The malaria medicine for children and infants under 5 years old was first tested in Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, Kenya, Malawi, Mozambique, Nigeria, Tanzania, and Uganda. It is now expected to be made available in African markets and put into use. The organization also reminded that children under 5 years are most vulnerable to malaria. In 2023, nearly 76% of malaria-related deaths occurred in this age group. In that same year, an estimated 263 million people contracted malaria and 7,997 died, mostly in 83 countries, predominantly in Africa. Now to the United States. On Monday, the U.S. President Donald Trump met with his Ukrainian counterpart, Volodymyr Zelensky, at the White House. The meeting aimed to discuss the ongoing war between Ukraine and Russia since 2022 and potential solutions to end the conflict. President Zelensky was accompanied in Washington by a large delegation of European leaders to show their support. Among them were French President Emmanuel Macron, Finnish President Alexander Stubb, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, and NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. Before the talks with Trump began, this European delegation met separately with President Zelensky to prepare for the US-Ukraine meeting. The meeting between Ukraine and the United States focused in part on the outcomes of the Trump's recent meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska, which likewise did not produce any concrete solution to the 3.5-year conflict between the two countries. However, Trump stated that he supports Ukraine ceding territory occupied by Russia as a possible way to bring the conflict to an end. U.S. President Donald Trump affirmed U.S. involvement in providing security guarantees as part of any future peace agreement to resolve Russia's war in Ukraine. However, ahead of the summit, he had urged Kyiv to relinquish its claims to Crimea annexed by Russia in 2014 in a move widely condemned as illegal under international law and abandon its NATO membership ambitions. Now this brings us to the end of tonight's bulletin, but before we leave, a reminder of the top stories that made the edition. Leaders of microfinance institutions in Zimbabwe are currently on a 2-day study tour in Rwanda to learn how technology is being used in the delivery of services in such institutions. The Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Resources says that in the new reforms, it plans to strengthen the knowledge of agriculture extension workers. And on the international scene, the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention announced that it welcomes the approval of a malaria treatment for newborns and young children. And that marks the end of tonight's bulletin. Thank you for joining us today. On behalf of the entire news team, we wish you a productive week ahead. Stay safe. Goodbye.